All right, we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to GM Philosophy in the afternoon. It's great to see everybody. This is the channel where we empower game masters to run better games. I'm the GM Philosopher. I'm a professional game master, professional TTRPG content creator. It is my I'm in the middle of my 25th year of running D&D games, guys. This is where we're at right now. And at the moment, I have 5 pro games going. And I do the YouTube and the pro games, and I sell products full time. If you want to see my most recent books that I have written, I'll just quickly show them to you here real quick. One is the Paid GM Guidebook. This is my 142-page thesis on how I went from having 0 paid games to having 5 full paid games going full time using Start Playing. You can grab that for about the price of 2 cups of coffee. Links in the description. The other book that I've written that is, I would say, important to the craft is the Advanced Guide to TTRPG Game Mastery. 50 pages, my thesis on how to build emotional resonance in your games, how to build games and campaigns that'll keep your players wanting to come back again and again for about the price of a cup of coffee. You can grab that. Links in the description. 20 years of gaming wisdom packed into 50 pages on that one. Those are my 2 most important books. And I've begun work on my 3rd book, which is a player's guide, like for GMs to give their players how to be like an amazing player, how to get the most out of the game. We're working on that book. I'm not sure what it's going to be called, but we're working on it. We've got Blue Rose Line in the chat. Hello, Blue Rose. We got Mike Bell. We got Tuxeris. We got Mike Bell says, I was just looking around your profile, GM Philosopher. You're creeping up on 1 million views. 100%. We are so close to 1 million views on YouTube. It's a big milestone. Maybe YouTube will give me like some algorithm juice when that happens, right? All right. So today we're talking about something very, very interesting, guys. Are pro game masters ruining D&D? Is this thing ruining the space? So I posted in the GM Philosophy Discord, which if you haven't joined, links in the description. You should join us. We are over 600 game masters strong. Everyone in there every day furthering this business of empowering game masters to run better games. If you're passionate about TTRPGs and you're not a member of the GM Philosophy Discord, I would say that you should jump in and hang out with us. Really, really awesome group with awesome people in it. Okay. Now, the other day, I posted a post on Discord for the group here. I said, I plan to do a live stream about this topic, and I want to hear what you think. Is the idea of professional game masters ruining D&D, or is it good for the hobby and the craft overall? And what I'm going to do in this live stream today is I'm going to literally read you the responses, and I'm going to react to them, okay? Can you guys hear me okay? Will someone drop me a comment? Let me know if my audio is coming through okay. I think it probably is, or someone would have probably said something, but I just like to make sure because I don't want to talk for an hour and have no audio. I don't know. Maybe that's better. Maybe it's better if you watch me talking, but you don't actually hear me. It's fine. Sound is good. Okay, good. Stuart's in the house. Hello, Stuart. Gordon Bolas in the house. How's it going, Gordon? It was great gaming with you the other day. All right. So now we're going to go to the first response. And this is from Al Perkins. The laborer is worthy of his wage. If you are doing something that creates value for others, there is nothing wrong with being paid for it. That's what Al Perkins said. Personally, I do agree. I think that there is sometimes among good-hearted, good people, and I'm going to say this, I think the TTRPG community is filled with good-hearted, good people, like good, like, dare I say, like good, down-to-earth, like I would say normal folk who want to live a good life and be good people. There is a little bit sometimes a problem when you bring money in because money is a little bit of a sensitive topic. Sometimes it's easy to forget that even though you want to do nice things for everyone and help everyone, that charging for the things that you're good at is not a wrong thing. And then, in fact, is it more of an abundance mentality that helps make the world better? That is my view of it. Aretha goes in the chat. Hey, now, how's it going? Looking forward to our first Pro GM meeting on Friday. Super looking forward to it. Aretha Co will be there along with others who are in the new Pro DMs Guild. If you want to possibly interview to get into that guild, there may be 1 seat left. I'm not sure if there is. We have an interview tomorrow, but you can join the GM Philosophy Discord. Message me. Tell me you want to get into the Pro GMs Guild. That's where we Pro GMs are getting together to really skyrocket to the business, right? Make it awesome. Okay, Garrick was the next one to comment. I have nothing against it, even though I decline to accept any more than drinks and snacks, and those are optional. This makes sense. Garrick, I know Garrick, pretty well through the Discord, running awesome game for friends and family. Definitely in that space of enjoying the craft, not getting into the professional side of it, but has nothing against it. Great take on it there. I do believe that there is always going to be a place for passionate game masters to run games for their friends and family, enjoying the craft of creating the adventures of these characters. And that does not mean that there's anything wrong with that. That will always continue. I will always be running games for my friends and family and not, obviously not charging for them. However, I do not think that has to replace the pro game thing either. The pro game is building upon it, is an evolution of the craft. I believe this. We have Paul Artemis, next one to comment. As long as GM is putting in work and effort, I think it's fair he gets paid. I would agree. It kind of goes back to what L. Perkins said. The laborer is worthy of his wage. I think this is a common sense way to look at it. We have Loveless next. Loveless says, I don't think it ruins the craft. I think it helps other beginner dungeon masters or veterans with the craft, give them ideas to branch more, to create villains, terrain, atmosphere, even if some of them can be similar, even if some of us who have writer's block or maybe in a stump, they can look at those ideas or stories. Even myself, I look to other DMs and watch their craft. I like to implement some of their craft into my campaign. And if it helps make the story or the game a challenge or exciting for the player to enjoy the session, then it's like a good thing. That's what Loveless said. I think this is a great take on it. And I think that Loveless actually touched on something here. He said, I don't think it ruins the craft. I think it helps other beginner dungeon masters or even veterans with their craft and give them ideas to branch out more. Here's the thing. When you take a really, really amazing game master who's really great at running games, but they have to work a day job and they have to do all these things. They're running a game for their friends and family, but they don't have time to do anything else because they have to earn a living. What if that great GM, instead of running for, the 6 players they run for, what if they could run for 36 players and they could create that many more awesome games and it was their full-time gig? It was either their a big side hustle or their primary income, and they were compensated to such a degree that they could go even deeper into the craft and become an even greater game master with all that new time, new experience, new resources. Isn't this going to take the craft further? I believe it is. This is what I believe very much. Pan Piper's in the chat. Arriving late, that's okay, Pan Piper. A wizard arrives neither late nor early. They arrive exactly when they mean to, right? Mint Coded commented next. Mint Coded is an amazing member of the Discord, has been here a long time. Here's what they said. I guess I'll play devil's advocate. I think that it in general has a massive risk for the player that turns people away from the hobby a lot of the time. If you pay money and someone is not worth that, it sometimes creates a negative association with tabletop as a whole. I know people who left the hobby for good because they paid $25 one time a few years ago and had a very unfun time. It scorned their trust in the hobby. Whether or not you consider that valid is your own personal decision, not theirs. It has and may always have a negative stigma attached to it because it isn't as quantifiable a skill as something like pottery or drawing. You're basically buying into the idea you'll vibe with a group. Important to note that this isn't me saying someone doesn't deserve compensation, especially if they go above and beyond. But it's hard to break this stigma because not everyone is honest. And a lot of people ask for a DM. I will also say that if you pay, you tend to avoid the issue of people not showing up, which for some is enough, even if the DM is subpar. It's a pretty complicated gray area. This is what Mincode said. So this is a very good comment. I think there's a lot of valid things here. There is a stigma attached to it. I do think that historically it has been difficult to quantify what the pro DM is bringing to the table, right? Pun intended, maybe. And I do think it has the potential to sour people on the hobby. And let's keep in mind, there's really no oversight, right? There's no certification or something. Like there are companies like Polyhedra where they vet their game masters, but then on start playing, you never know what you're going to get if you're a player, right? So these are all things here. Now, one thing I will say is I think I want to speak to the issue of quantifying what the GM brings to the table. I do believe that we like, okay, so the reason it's not quantified is just because very few people have actually done the work to mentally quantify it. And because for so long it has been just a creative hobby thing. There has been no money really associated with it other than the oodles of money we spend on materials from the people from the publishers. Um, so with that being said, um, I do believe that with some effort, we can quantify it very easily. The way I quantify this is by saying a professional game master, what they're actually doing is they are creating a community that offers a certain set of values. And then people pay for access to the community, access to the table. That's actually what they're paying for. So it's sort of like paying to go to business networking or to join a business networking group, or it's sort of like paying to join like an elite running club, or even paying to get into like, a country club. It is payment to get into a community doing a certain activity you care about. And the game master, as the facilitator, sort of the manager of the community, would be kind of like the owner manager of the country club. This is how I quantify it. I think this makes total sense with me. So I don't think there's an issue with quantifying it, but I do see how there has been an issue with that because there's been such a stigma attached to it. I also feel like anyone brave enough to quantify that gets flamed for it. This is evidenced in my comments. People flame me. Like I can't get over how many negative comments I get about this. Like basically you're trash because you charge people for D&D. It's like, why? Why? Do you say this to your insurance agent? Right? Do you say this when you go see a movie? Right? There you go. Pan Piper says, you know what gives pro DMs a bad name? Not responding to people interested in joining their campaign. A young woman messaged me about my full game. We started talking. She has zero D&D experience. She wants to play, but every time a DM or GM finds out she has never played, they don't respond. I'm taking her under my wing. Well, that's good. And to me, that would be like, and I don't know, Pan Piper, if this is a pro game thing or if this is a friends and family thing, but either way, it doesn't really matter. What matters is that you are caring enough to do an unscalable human thing. These businesses, a lot of times it's just like, give me your email and you get put into an automated system and we can charge you money. This is the dream for many of these businesses because they want to make money with the least amount of manpower effort. What you're doing, um, oh, that wasn't Pan Piper. That was Stuart. My bad, Stuart. Stuart says we were teaching her the game. Pan Piper's name was above it, and I thought that was who was posting it. So Stuart was the one who got messaged. The person had bad experience. People did not respond. So you're taking her under your wing, letting her hang out for free, create a character, gonna let her join. All you had to do was jump on a call and help her out. See, this is what I call scaling unscalable human activity, right? So a lot of businesses, they want to automate all these things, right? But see, in these spaces where it's very social, very artistic, I believe it pays. And when I say pays, it does pay monetarily, but it also pays in your reputation and the value to do the human things, to meet with people, to talk to people. This makes the economics difficult, but it's also what I believe breeds greater success, and you cannot escape this. D&D and TTRPGs are a very social hobby. Yelling into the Wind says, Stuart, this is good. Personally, I prefer new players since they have exciting ideas and fewer bad habits to unlearn. Sad that new players can't find games. I agree. And I think that this is evidence that we need good pro GMs in the space, right? So what Stuart is doing is what I would call a professional move here. This is a very good thing. All right, let's move on to the next comment from Dirty Socks. Hot take. They're not ruining anything. They're just changing the landscape. Most people start D&D with a friend running a game, and that's always going to be the heart of the hobby. I agree with that. But as players get more invested, their expectations grow. Some stick with their original GM. Others naturally look for a different style or higher level of polish, and that's where paid GMs come in. A professional GM is usually putting in serious time to refine their craft: storytelling, pacing, world building, player engagement. That can raise the overall standard and even inspire unpaid GMs to improve their own games. In that sense, it's good for the hobby's evolution. That said, there's a balance. If everything became pay to play, it would hurt accessibility and the grassroots. I agree. I don't think there should ever be a, you know, the only way you can play D&D is if you pay to do it. I don't think that this is the right way either. It would hurt the accessibility and grassroots friends around a table spirit that makes D&D special. But right now, it's optional and that choice matters. At the end of the day, it comes down to what players want. Casual, chaotic fun with their friends, great. A highly polished cinematic experience, also great. Both can coexist without canceling each other out. Curious where everyone else lands, right? Toxera says, I personally feel like they're worth being paid. I'm in a friend's game and it drives me bonkers sometimes that he won't charge me. I have seen how much work they put into their games and they deserve money for that. Yeah. Well, that's a good realization to make. But it's also true though. I think that like when I run for my friends and family, I mean, there's a lot more that comes from it than just money. And I think that is something that should remain kind of sacred. I kind of think like I would never charge my good friends and family members to play D&D with me, right? That's different though than launching a legitimate business, opening up a community space, and having that option there for people who are looking for what you are offering. This is a different thing, right? Separating business and family. But it doesn't mean that if you're running a business, you can't treat the people you meet and do business with as family and treat them very well, which is what Stuart was talking about. Okay, so speaking of Stuart commented on the Discord post, ruining D&D? Heck no. The demand to play D&D is off the charts. More people want to play D&D, but can't find local groups or can't get there. They can't even find free games to play with, and even if they can, they are subject to the quality. This is true. I agree with Stuart here. If I'm paying, I can choose the type of campaign, style of game, and even an expectation of playtime and amount of sessions. This is also true. A professional that is paid has a certain level of expectations by the players that is allowed because they are paid. I also agree with this. Also, people pay for all types of entertainment, games, and experiences. So why not D&D? 100%. I agree with Stuart on all this. Stuart also said here in the chat, yep, yelling into the wind. Sad that she is honest, telling GMs she's never played and they don't want to help. I was so disheartened. All my players want to show her a positive D&D experience. Yeah, this is very good. This is very good. All right, now we're going to go to another comment in the Discord. Just lost the day. Here's what they had to say. I think it's like most everything else. People have issues with new things. People get worried about the thing they love being done differently than what they did with said thing. Also, lots of people want free therapy, and you should build thousands of hours of game world out of the goodness of your heart. I digress, but it's definitely a discussion with many sides. If someone puts in the time and effort and puts out a good product, in this case, being good at GMing, then being paid for it shouldn't be a problem. On the other side of that, I can see it being a problem if you pay someone for a well-done game and then they give you a no-effort crap fest. I agree. Obviously, that's not good business, and it's not just good in general. Yeah, I could see that leaving a bad taste in people's mouths and making people say it's ruining their hobby. The thing with paying someone is that you're paying for experience and the knowledge they know what they are doing. That's really no different than any other form of entertainment. I agree with Jay Lost the Day. I think that this is a pretty concise way to describe it, and I think that this is all pretty much true. More Cringe 89 says, for me, are not the pro game masters. They are the weird players in general. Behave normal on the table and go back to your paranoia at home. It is not too much to ask. Okay. Can we get context for that? Can I get a story to go with that? That was I feel like there's a lot of unanswered questions in that, but More Cringe, welcome to the chat. I love it. Okay, let's go back to some of these more in the Discord. Here's what Waz had to say. For me, it is clear cut. Pro GMs are essential. Without pro GMs, I would not have started D&D at all. So there's kind of that's a player's perspective on it who's played in pro games. We have Vintox here. Here's what Vintox had to say. Probably a deep dive of what entails being professional is. Then you can ask with context. Considering an audience where professional attitudes and behaviors would appeal to, and another audience where professional attitudes and behaviors would not appeal to. So basically, Vintox is asking a deeper question. What does it mean to be a professional? And there were some comments about this. And so we're going to follow this thread too. Mint coded left another comment here, responding to their first comment. The more I think about it, the more the reverse is also true. People paying for something might feel they have a right to be the main character of a session. There are risks for the DM as well. I feel like a sense of entitlement might kill the want to be a DM. That is true. That is something that pro GMs need to learn to deal with, because that is a true thing. And here's what I'm going to say about that. I 100% believe that when I run a game, a paid game, I should run it exactly like I'd run it for my friends and family. I should care about all the players. I should try to be fair. I should try to provide the best experience possible. I should not think that just because someone's paying money, they get to boss me around or tell me what to do, because that'll compromise the quality of the game for everyone. I think this is 100% true. People who disagree can kick rocks, as far as I'm concerned. So that's where we stand on that. Everyone can clip that and flame me for it. That's what I think, though. Okay, so the sense of entitlement, I've not really run into this. I don't think I've run into, in my experience thus far being a pro GM, I really do not think I've had players act entitled because they were paying. I really don't think, I think that's more of a rare thing, but if that were to happen, that's big no good. No. Kick rocks, buddy. No one gets to act entitled when they come into a group collaborative activity. All right. So with that said, Mincode had also said, it ends up that no matter how much someone values their work, the fear and negative stigma of bad actor players may stop them. I'd really only considered it from the player point of view, since I'd never charged for my games. Okay, so that's another thing that might stop pro GMs from doing that. I don't think it should, though, because this can be this is a skill. Dealing with people and when money's being exchanged and keeping it friendly, keeping it cordial, staying friends with people even though money isn't there. This is a social and professional business skill. Salesmen learn this skill. So you can learn these skills. Mint Coded does bring up some good points, but I would encourage new aspiring pro game masters not to let these things stop them. Instead, focus on learning those skills so that you can just not be affected by them and you can just deal with them professionally, right? Mimir Infinite says, I think paid games can't exist without unpaid games. Paid games come with that expectation of competency and a consistent experience. It doesn't leave much space for innovation and trying new things unless you've built a trusting player base who is okay with the occasional session or arc that is experimental or doesn't work out right. I'd be more inclined to play test new ideas or styles in non-paid games because you're not as bound by the same expectations. I'm super confident in the plot for my bi-weekly Sunday game, but running a survival hex crawl is something I wasn't sure about. I'm using that game as practice and to refine my GM style for that type of game. I can understand this. Using a free medium so that you don't feel like, maybe you don't feel like you're taking advantage of people or you don't feel like you're wasting time on their dime. I can understand this. However, I also believe that if we do not take risks, if we do not attempt to evolve, and sometimes if we do not risk failure, we will never aspire to greatness. And I don't think there's anything wrong with doing that in a professional GM context, because I would do that with my friends and family. And if I would do that with them, then why wouldn't I do it with, other people just because they're paying to be in my games? Like, why wouldn't I do it? I think that what they're paying for is access to my table. And if I decide to take risks, then I'm going to take risks. And if they don't like it, the market will speak and they'll leave. And I shouldn't be afraid of that. And that shouldn't stifle me from growing and trying new things and experimenting, right? Sort of like if you own a restaurant and you experiment with a new menu item. Some people may not like it. Okay, but if you never try, you never evolve. So Mirror Infinite, great thoughts. That's just my honest, immediate feedback on that. We got some comments in the chat here. Sickle Blaze says, definitely prefer new and less experienced players. I will take anyone, but the newer players come into it with more. I want to try all these ideas. I've found many experienced players are more reserved and they already know what they are capable of and don't ask for things beyond what a lot of DMs have already said no to. I kind of agree with you, but I like both. I love playing with experienced players. I also love playing with new players. So I can get on both sides of that, man. There's a funness to new players, though, discovering the game and experimenting and trying crazy things. And that fresh perspective is very fun. I do like that. All right. Panpiper chimed in saying, running a good D&D game is a lot of work. It takes at least as much time out of the game as it takes in-game. at least for most good GMs. There are many such GMs who are happy to run such a game for free with their friends, but what happens to those of us who are not so fortunate to have such forever DM friends? We're reduced to begging to be accepted into someone's pickup game, and good luck with finding one of the good ones. This is super true. Professional GMs give us another option. We, the customers, don't have to beg for the dregs. We can pay for access to a good GM's game, someone who will put in the effort to run a good game. Professional GMs make the game better for those who are willing to pay, and people willing to put in the work to create such games for us have every right to be compensated for their time, talent, and effort. I pretty much think that Pan Piper is 100% right. I really think that this is exactly right. I would agree. I would basically say the same thing. Superhero says hello. Hello, Superhero. Welcome to the chat. Redacted says, it doesn't ruin the hobby. It expands it and adds new layers to it. Being a paid GM is a professional service. Just like writers, designers, and entertainers earn a living from their craft, a GM who delivers a curated and reliable experience does the same. You are essentially hiring a storyteller, a referee, and an event planner in a single package. The true value comes from the professionalism and consistency they bring to the table. I think that's true, and I think that's a very mature way to think about it. I don't know if a lot of people know this, but like just having a GM who does prep, shows up, and does their best consistently, like literally showing up every time consistently and actually providing like a good baseline experience, how much that alone is worth. That's actually worth a lot. There might be a lot of people out there whose, free Game Masters never canceled games, but I have seen so many, like I've seen these like free games just fall apart so fast. If I wasn't running them, they would just fall apart. They would be inconsistent. They would get canceled every other week, and that's not serious. Like there are gamers out there who want to be more serious than that. And that's what Redacted's comment makes me think. All right. Cognosante said this. I grew up in the Catskills, the place where comedians want to get paid to tell jokes. I tell jokes all the time for free. I don't, however, work on new jokes. Considering the time, energy, and money I put into improving the quality of my work, I should get paid as well. Will I have a night off like an over-medicated Bob Weir falling asleep on stage? Well, hopefully not that bad. Kill is Dutch for stream. There were a lot of panthers in the mountains in the 1600s. Therefore, so I will be honest. I think that what Cognosante, I didn't follow some of that, but I do think that what Cognosante is saying is that there's a difference between people who kind of want to do things for free, like maybe the comedian who tells jokes but they don't work on new material, or like the comedian who's constantly working on their craft, trying to entertain people and, taking it to a professional level. And I think that this was I believe that this was a comparison to Gamemasters, I believe, which I agree with. I don't know who Bob Weir is, unfortunately. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, there we go. Boom. Thank you, Cognosante, who's, by the way, a member of our Pro DMs Guild. Super excited for our first meeting on Friday. All right. William made a comment also. There was a little bit of conversation about pro players. That's a kind of a different conversation for a different time. But William says, DM Ramos, who I play in William's game on Sunday evenings, playing Grom-Mizek of the Black Horns, Lawful Evil Minotaur Bard. But William says, well, I'm a pro DM, so I say it's good for the hobby. There are plenty of groups that I see that just get together and hang out. That is one experience. But if you want a higher quality experience, you find the skilled pro DM. Being a great GM is difficult and valuable. There is a level of awareness and emotional skill you need. Thoughtfulness versus careless, prepped versus sloppy, player focused versus ego driven, dramatic versus boring, consistent versus flaky. Sometimes a DM may want to show off the characters they made and make the story about them versus a DM that makes the story about the players. But also a free but amazing GM will always beat a mediocre paid GM every time. Yet a paid amazing GM beats many free tables every time. I think some of the pushback to pro GMs is that some market very well but lack skill. It is also about balance. Some players want that deep role play, be it RP, combat, exploration, or whatnot, while others may just want to be silly and hang out. I'm a deep RP player, and if more than half the table isn't high-level player RP or focused in immersion of the world and the characters, I zone out. I wouldn't want to pay So not really a pro GM's fault there. The players would affect that. The lower expectation or skill or just wanting to hang out and roll some dice. So I pretty much agree with what Williams said there. I do think that those comparisons between free and pro games are true. I also do see what Williams is saying about the players do make a big difference. There's something to be said about having a game master who can either put the right groups of people together who will be really good, have good synergy with each other. And there's something to be said for a GM who maybe can appeal to different styles of gamers in the same session and still make it fun. I think that those are two skills that will help a professional GM to make games better. And I think that those are important things for a GM to think about, especially at first, learning how to make the game so that it will appeal to kind of like the variety of players you have at your table. Some of them are going to want more combat. Some of them are going to want more talking and going shopping, right? So it's like different things. Let's see here. Glapian Collective said this: if you can get better for free, people will. What is ruining D&D is Hasbro and their obsession, because their executives come from the video game industry to turn the game into a microtransaction Korean-style MMO. The only way I could see pros being a plague would be if they became gatekeepers and crowded out the amateurs. So far, the VTTs are an open field. If a cabal bought most of them and gave the cabal free rent while charging everyone else inflated prices to create a monopoly. So I think that Glapian. Okay, so Glapian says some things about Hasbro there, which I mean, yeah, people. I mean, people they complain about that. Personally, I'm not too mad about Hasbro. Um, I spend a very minimal amount on D&D stuff. I bought the core books, and that's it. I haven't bought a single online downloadable. I don't have to. I have the books, and if players want to play something that's not in the core books, it's like, well, if you have the book, go for it. Like I don't have the books, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So people can buy and use what they want to use at my table. I'm not super upset about it. I understand they have a business to run. They got to make money too. I get it. I will say corporations are generally inefficient, bloated, cash guzzling monsters. I think that the lack of efficiency is usually startling. But I don't know. I don't work for Hasbro, right? But I will also say this: if you can get better for free, people will. Yeah, this is true. A lot of people will choose free. I mean, honestly, it's kind of a common sense thing, right? If you have an amazing free game master that you can play with, why pay to play in someone else's game unless you're looking for something different, right? And I think this is common sense, makes sense. Um, and there are some players who may not even ever be an eligible customer for a pro GM because they don't need that, right? They have a great GM who they like to play with and everything's fine. So let's see, what else did Glapian Collective say? Becoming gatekeepers and stuff. I mean, I think as long as there are still GMs running free games, we're never going to have the gatekeepers. But I do believe we're going to go. I think we're going to push more into a place in the next 10 years where the really good game masters are going to start charging for it. And so it's going to become more common, and it's going to become more difficult to find free games with those GMs. I do think that's going to be a thing. Personally, I'm not upset by it. Mike Bell says, got to get back to work. I'll catch the end later. Heck yeah, Mike Bell. Have a great day. Thank you for joining in. I want to catch up on some comments here. Let's see. Ludus Dominus says, Matt Colville has said on YouTube, TTRPG people out of all tabletop gaming games are the most difficult customers because they have this expectation that they shouldn't have to pay for anything, as told to him by game store owners, which is easy to see sometimes. Yeah, that is, I think, true. It is also true. And to their credit, we have to go in this direction too. Who is playing TTRPGs? Artists. They are artists. They're wanting to create a story. They're wanting to create an experience. They're wanting to create a narrative. Even the most min-maxy power gamers are playing D&D and not Warhammer because they're attracted to the role play element of it even a little bit. And artists are going to get feisty about their stuff, man. Artists, they're going to be emotional about their craft. They're not going to want to get charged money. They're going to, there's an emotional, passionate element to TTRPG gamers that drives this, I think. So, but that's also part of what makes them so invested in the craft. So on one hand, yeah, I see what Matt Colville is saying, but on the other hand, it's like, well, but that there are so many good things that come from the base reason of that It's hard to just point at it and call it a negative. That's my take on that. And I've been really, really thinking about that lately, in trying to understand gamers better. Because I'll be honest, sometimes I don't understand gamers. I've always loved D&D and I've always loved running games, but I will be honest. There is a time when there are times when I don't understand gamers sometimes because I feel like um, I just feel like my mind works so differently than the average gamer. I really, really have come to that realization. Maybe this is why I love to run games instead of play as much. But I sometimes have a trouble understanding players. I'm always trying to understand them better. Anyway, Superhero says, would a free first session be something that should be more pushed within the pro paid gym community? Not every player is compatible with a particular GM. So, in what I've been doing lately, and I've experimented with this a lot. What I do is I offer for free, they can come and spectate sessions as much as they want. It's like you want to spectate 2, 3, 4 sessions before you join, feel free, come in. You can spectate all my games if you want. However, when they enter as a player, that's when they purchase access to the table. That's what I do right now. But I feel like spectating and then hanging out with the players before and after gives them that really good kind of experience with it. I think that accomplishes actually better than the free session zero, because then you're not putting all this work into making a character and doing session onboarding for someone who may not even like the group, right? So that's an efficiency decision, but it's efficiency for you and for them. That's what I think about that. Good question. Let's see here. Flip Out says, I have no problem with paid games, but I will say I would never have gotten into the hobby if it was the only way to play. Super fair. That is very super fair because, well, even today, it is definitely less common to pay for access to a table than to play for free with your friends. And there's still a big stigma about it, right? So this makes total sense. I would also say this. I think that pro GMs are good for the game, but I wish they weren't needed. I wish every friend and family group had an amazing GM who loved running games and did it consistently. Wouldn't that make the world better? Of course. Just like the world would be better if every friend and family group had a mechanic who would work on their cars for free. Or every friend and family group had like someone who owned a movie theater and let them all watch all the movies for free. Obviously, that would be better, right? So make of that what you will, but I do believe that's true. Buckaroo Banzai said, it is sad that this is even coming up as a question. As a guitarist, singer, songwriter, bass player, keyboardist, graphic designer, web designer, cartographer, author, I see every aspect of the creative spectrum. DMing fits in there like perfectly. I agree with that. It's like if I'm in a band, I play for free for my friends at their birthday parties. You don't play for free at a bar if you want to DM for free, DM free for your friends. But there's millions of people who can't get that experience if anybody even ponders that they're just being ignorant. So no, you're right, and what you're speaking about is the reality of our capitalist society. And I'm not dogging on capitalism. I love capitalism. Do I wish that I wasn't driven by base survival every day to make enough money to pay bills and stay and like basically win the hamster wheel? I do wish that wasn't the thing, but it is the thing. And since that's the game, I accept it. I'm not mad about it. I love capitalism because it gives us the freedom to pursue things we love. I think that this is a good thing. I would rather have my freedom and then the problems that come with it than, having some other kind of society. Ravens Roost says, hello, Ravens Roost. Great to have you in the chat. So anyway, but Buckaroo Banzai, great comments there. I agree with you, and I think that there's a lot of wisdom in what you're saying, and is most definitely a creative thing. Just like being a keyboardist, a guitarist, yes, you're right. It does fit right in there because it is a creative thing. Okay, I have a comment here on the Discord from Fantasy Fanatic. Fantasy Fanatic says, I really don't think pro GMs are ruining anything. Non-paid tables are the vast majority of games out there, and that's how it should be. But giving an option to people who want to find something that is, in theory, more polished and consistent is good. I agree with this, and I think this is accurate. The problem with finding an online paid game, in my opinion, is the same as with the unpaid. Are you going to enjoy the vibe and the group? If you paid money and bounced off the jam style or the group dynamics, you might be shy to go spend money trying again, which makes sense. But the same can be said of unpaid. It just didn't cost you anything other than like the time investment, right? But yeah, you're right. I think that's true. I think that it's really important to keep in mind that it's always going to feel crappy to waste your time or your money. It is. This is why if you're trying to be a pro GM, it's in your best interest to do the best you can, provide actual real value and crush it. This is definitely better. And then we have a comment by Alex here. Alex W says, I personally think the moniker of pro DM is a misnomer. There's a vast difference between professional and being paid. Now, of course, the two can intersect, but to have the near automatic assumption that just because a DM is being paid, that also means that they are professional in their craft. This is misleading at best and borderline dishonest at worst. Now, I have never run a paid game, specifically because I didn't and don't want to. Nearly every player that I've run for has at some point or another told me I should be charging for my games. My response is always the same. I don't think I will because I love the genre and I enjoy sharing creation of memorable stories, and money isn't that important to me. I have been DMing professionally for over 25 or for over 35 years. I've been running games for nearly 40 years. I actually started when I was 7 with the original Big Red Box in '83. It took me just under a decade to refine my craft and make no mistake to do it well and give the players a perfect balance of RP, combat, exploration, and loot. Not always physical. Information that helps the players do something or survive something is also considered loot. This is a craft. I've run most of the game systems out there, especially the ones that were popular or requested by players, because I love learning new systems and seeing how their lore was translated into game mechanics. The GM also needs to be able to be fluid and adapt to the table's dynamic and player makeup because it can change drastically. Just depending on certain player moods that day or whatever they may have going on in their lives, it filters into the table. The point is this: don't get hung up on the moniker professional when what you actually mean is paid. Both can be true, but one does not automatically equate to the other. I totally understand this. I pretty much agree. So here's my thing. I believe the term professional should bring with it an amount of professionalism. If you are not a seasoned, experienced pro, then maybe you shouldn't call yourself professional. You should say, I am running my first professional game, but I'm new to this. I'm giving a discount because I'm new. Come join me. Like, I don't know, something like that. Right. But I also don't recommend that people run paid games if they have not really, really gotten a lot of experience running free games. I don't think that they should. Just like we shouldn't, I don't know. If you don't know how to install cabinets, you should probably install a few cabinets for free or train with someone before you go hiring out as a cabinet installer, right? I have installed cabinets, and I know that you can mess it up big time if you don't know what you're doing. Dungeons and 20 says, with all the bills to pay to survive, I have to steer to pro GMing just to play. Even our Sunday game, I've rescheduled photography just to play, but have lost money for bills. Yet I constantly try to DM it, even though that one is free since I enjoy it and use it for future books. That is, that's super true. And maybe, William, maybe you should consider making it paid. I don't know. Like, I don't know if that would be such a bad thing. Stuart says, that's why I don't call myself a pro GM. This is my first campaign since childhood. Super fair, super fair. I think that that's one of those things. If you are struggling with calling yourself a pro and you think, I don't deserve that or I'm not good enough, I think there's either two things that are happening. One, either you are good enough and you're afraid to give yourself credit, maybe because you have imposter syndrome, or two, you're not good enough. And that's your conscience pinging you and letting you know you're not quite a pro yet and you need to develop more. One of those things is probably true. I think if you deserve to be called a pro, you should do it. And I think that if you're not quite experienced enough that you can in good conscience call yourself a pro, then don't. And that's okay. Being honest is a better sales tactic than trying to be flashy. I really believe this very much. That's why I oftentimes go on here and talk about my mess ups. I'm not afraid of talking about my mess ups. I'm not afraid they're going to make me look unprofessional. I am afraid of the danger of trying to be something you're not. That is what I'm more afraid of. John Haney had a good comment here, our lead moderator and lead counselor on the GM Philosophy Discord. He said, I once paid to coach basketball. I don't know if he meant that or if he meant I once got paid, but he says, but I never claimed to be a professional basketball coach. I ran 2 practices a week and in single game for middle schoolers. Money changed hands for my time. Yeah, I think he means he got paid. Money changed hands for my time and very limited experience, but to claim to be a professional basketball coach would have been dishonest. Yeah, no, I understand. Darth Vader says, I also generally never refer to myself as a pro DM, as I also dislike the term. I'm a DM that charges usually complete strangers around the world, several different countries at least, for my time and craft and such to run D&D. That's what Darth Vader said. And then John Heaney said, the word professional implies that you dedicate your life, or at least a very large part of it, to that pursuit, as well as that it is probably how you make most of your money. And then Alex actually responded to that saying, that's not necessarily the case. An individual working in retail for 10, 15, or 20 years that is never allowed to advance their position, even though they're qualified to do so, might not consider themselves a professional in that field. It can easily just be that they were not able to get the opportunity to do the thing that they wanted. For example, medical professionals, physical or mental, with degrees to become doctors who work in retail or fast food because they cannot get hired to do what they dedicated their life, or at least a very large part of it, to do. It's subjective depending on circumstances and opportunities. Yeah, that's true. I have something to say about this. I'm going to read one more comment here, then I want to talk about this professional debate thing. John Heaney said, sure, very little in life fits into neat little categories like we like, especially when a single word has multiple definitions and implications. All I'm saying is that the word could most certainly apply to GMing as long as those definitions and implications are true. The only one that might not fit in my dictionary is the idea of certification. As far as I'm aware, there is no recognized certification for GMing. All the other definitions and implications could certainly be applied to the pursuit of GMing, though. GMs who fulfill any of those definitions shouldn't be looked down on for referring to themselves as professional GMs as long as they're comfortable doing so. All right. So this is a really good conversation. And here's what I want to say about this. And that we have a couple other little things here. Actually, there's one more comment I think I need to read before I give my 2 cents, because this is from L. Perkins, and this is actually about the professionalism thing, and it's really, really good. Here's what L. Perkins said. Uncle Bob Martin has a fair amount to say on this topic. He talks from the perspective of a computer programmer, but there are fairly strong parallels to other sorts of creative professional fields. The core of his message is, if you are a professional, what is it you profess? What is your code of ethics? Linguistically, this is what separates professionals from non-professionals, regardless of if they are paid. Notably, the professional means paid dates to 1848, while the public declaration of calling, competence, or ethos is early 15th century. Martin talks about this extensively within software because there are lots of self-trained developers in software. They've never taken a business ethics class, and even if they had, the quality of those isn't great. They also often started as hobbyists before going full-time. Consequently, they often need some help in shifting their mindset from hobbyist to professional. The parallels to GMing are obvious. I don't know of any certification or training program for professional GMs. Gygax himself started as an insurance salesman. Most GMs start out as hobbyists. Many are unsure if it's okay to accept money for their hobby, or they'll lose something in the process. So with that as a background, here are Martin's rules of ethics adapted for professional GMs. Number 1, do not ship crap. Seems obvious, but it's first because it's most often violated. Don't give your customers anything you wouldn't be happy to get. Don't give them anything you wouldn't want the whole world to think is the representation of your work. Number 2, be ready. Have what you need on hand at the scheduled time. Have the content you say you will have. Step 3, be reliable. Most campaigns fizzle after 8 sessions because most campaigns have a clear premise but no long-term plan. Number 4, improve. Always look for ways to hone your craft and deliver better games. Number 5, give honest estimates. It's acceptable to say, I don't know. It's fine to give a range. Don't guess. 6, say no. If you can't deliver on something, be upfront about it. Don't say, I'll try. And then 7, mentor others. You learn a lot about a topic by teaching. If you care about the craft beyond personal enrichment, you want others to deliver excellence to their customers as well. So I agree with all this. I think this was an excellent dissertation on what it means to be a professional. I really do. Okay, so with that being said, I want to weigh in on my thoughts about this professionalism thing. So here's what I think about it. Obviously, the term professional is deciphered, interpreted in many different ways. Okay. And I see that there is no clear-cut definition. There's no clear-cut definition for it. So here's how I define it when I'm talking to people. This partly comes from my background in marketing and through a lot of like self-development stuff I've gone through in trying to be good at marketing. Okay. Um, I've read a lot of like self-help books, business success books, things like that, right? So here's what and I think that these apply to being a pro GM. Here's what I think. I think people are going to do what they're going to do. Some of them are going to try to become a paid game master, i.e., they're going to try to turn it into a business. Some of them are going to be good at it, some of them are not going to be good at it. The ones who are good at it, they are going to probably have happier customers who are going to stay longer and pay more money. The ones who are good at marketing it are going to get way more customers, more chances to succeed. And sometimes they may outperform the ones who are better with bad marketing just because the marketing is good. It is always in your best interest to not only be the best marketer you can be, but also deliver the best products that you can possibly deliver every single time. And following these professional ethics that Al Perkins gave us in this comment are good. Don't ship crap, be ready, be reliable, improve, give honest estimates, say no, and mentor others. These are all great steps. And here's what's going to happen. The market is going to actually decide who's the best because gamers are going to leave bad games. They're going to stay in good games. They're not going to hear about the good games that are bad with marketing. So they're going to join the best marketed, best games they can find. It's all going to shake down as it is. And at the end of the day, I think you can call yourself a professional if you've proven good enough to make this either a very significant, successful side hustle, or you have managed to make it your full-time income and you are succeeding at it and growing it, and it's becoming more successful quarter after quarter. I think that that's when you deserve to call yourself a professional. I think it's very easy for people who do not put money in the mix to throw rocks at the people who have done all of the extra work to try to monetize it. I think it's very easy to do. And then they might say things like, well, you might charge, but that doesn't make you better than me. Okay, but at the end of the day, when you enter the business sphere, income becomes a whole nother area that you have to succeed at, or you're just not going to succeed. Ironically, if you're a really good game master, you're probably going to succeed at the money part if you make smart money choices. If you're a very bad GM, but you know how to make good money choices, you're still going to be frustrated because players are just going to leave your game. So that is what it is. It's just going to shake down by natural selection, guys. And that's why business is very much like sports. There's really no denying who's the winner and who's the loser. The one who makes more money is winning somehow, right? Now, I'm not trying to say it's all about money. And actually, very, very successful business people, they'll tell you first thing, stop making it about the money. It's not about the money. It's about the marketing. It's about the product. It's about your brand. It's about how you connect with customers. It's about how you deliver value and solve problems. And those are all things that need to be built in order for money to start coming in the picture. If you focus on the money first, this is going to come off as sleazy. You're focused on the wrong foundational principles. Your whole business is going to fall apart. I think this is what separates pros from non-pros. I think pros are the ones who have made it work successfully and successfully grown it in a business sense. Okay. And I think that calling them paid GMs, this is why I don't like the term paid game masters. Paid is focusing on the money first. No. Pro is focusing on delivering the value first. Now, are there GMs out there who are operating at a pro level without getting paid? Yes. But running a business is a heck of a lot different than running a free game. Those are two vastly different animals. I do think part of the stigma is that people like to throw rocks at the people who are trying to turn it into a business because they think they know, because they've been running free games, they think they know what it's like and it's easy to judge. They are not the same animal, though. I've been running games for 24 years. And when I started running pro games in January, I found out very quickly it was a very different animal. I had problems I'd never had in 24 years of running games because of the business part of it. But if you want to do that, that's just something you have to learn. You have to make that work. You've got to go in, you've got to perform at a high level. And if you don't, the market is going to boot you out and they're going to spit on you on the way out. That's just how it works. It is a cold game out here, guys. And when I say game, I don't mean D&D. I mean the game of business is a cold game. And she is a cruel mistress, and she's not going to let you get away with anything you didn't earn. I truly believe this. And then unless you're a scammer or a con man, and you're going to pay for that too, because then people are going to be very angry at you and they're going to spread the word, right? So it's not in your best interest to do that either. Okay, there's my 2 cents on the pro business part of it, the pro DM part. It's why I like to use the term pro and not paid, because paid is a scarcity mentality label. You're leading with money. Bad idea. It's always a bad idea to lead with money. You have to make smart money choices, but you have to lead by solving a problem and then doing it really well so that you're helping people have a better life. If that's not the premise of your business, then you're going to have a rough time. Your business isn't a legitimate business. It's some kind of pyramid scheme or scam or scheme of some kind, right? And that's not a true business. This is what I think. Okay, so flame me for that if you want. But that's what I think, and there's my 2 cents on it. So with that being said, guys, I think that we've really actually done a good job of covering this. Everyone dropped some really, really awesome comments. And I think that there's one more comment here. Superhero dropped a good comment I don't want to miss. There is a certain level of trust and responsibility vested to the GM given by the players and expectations. To claim oneself as a professional, would there be even more of that burden placed upon the GM and vice versa? And then LuxCan says, people who want everything and are willing to give nothing are terrible to create with. That is true. That is super true. Superhero says, true. There is a reason why D&D is one of the most recognized brands in the world. Yeah, no, for sure. D&D is the one that won. Like they were the ones who won that game. They dominated the space. Is it going to last forever? I don't know, guys. I have a little sneaky suspicion that Daggerheart in the next 10 years is going to take a big place in the market, but will Critical Role stick with it? We will see. Buckaroo Banzai said, if we all could have an income for doing what we are best at, society would be peak and advanced. Unfortunately, market demand and greed has messed up labor for energy work exchange. That's a hot take. I don't know that I agree with that. I don't know that I don't like the way it is, because here's the thing. When you say if we all have an income for doing what we are best at, but just because you like what you do best, that doesn't mean it's actually good enough to solve problems for people or innovative to help people. I think the market decides who is successful based on merit, and I think that's awesome personally, but it makes it hard. So Buckaroo Banzai, I do understand your sentiment, and I kind of wish for that. The good part of my heart wishes for that for people, but also I think a merit-based success system is going to produce the best results in the long term. That's the capitalist part of me talking, right? So anyway, that's what I have to say about that, I think. But great comment, and there's a part of me that does wish for that too. I would love to see people getting paid to do what they love and are passionate about. My message is always, if you are passionate about a thing, then pursue it, get really good at it, learn how to solve problems with it and to create value. That way you can make it a business. Buckaroo Banzai says, if people are not doing what they're best at, then they're wasting their abilities and talents and not at their peak ability. Society as a whole suffers for that. Yes, I agree with you. I 100% agree with you. I think there are a lot of people who are working at jobs they don't care about, for bosses they hate, making a bunch of money for people they don't care about. They're not being taken care of well enough. Wages are crap. People are doing brilliant work and not getting compensated well for it. And I think that it is honestly a waste of their life and potential to stick with their job that doesn't value them, doesn't actually care for them. They can barely pay for a place to live. I think this is crazy. I think it's crazy that most talented people are working at job. I would love to see every single person working on their side hustle with a plan to replace their job. Let some other poor schmuck do that useless, like work for that useless boss who just is like, blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm so tired of these. Now I'm getting on a rant. I am very sensitive to workers who work really hard at businesses that have huge financial cushions, but that barely pay a living wage, who, basically run their run their help ragged, all to get a little more money to pay their CEO. I think this is crazy. I don't want to participate in it. I wish no one else had to participate in it. This is why I believe the answer for those who love D&D and maybe being a game master is plan your exit. Start building your pro GM business. Start learning how to build a business on this that'll be great and be successful. And then you can plan to exit that stupid JOB that doesn't value you and pay you enough, where your potential is truly being wasted because you're pulling a lever when you could be doing great creative work. I'm also not trying to say that the work done is useless, but it's a question of what you love. Do you love your JOB? Okay, then there's no problem. Do you feel like you're not performing at your full potential, not making enough to live, not making enough to survive? There's no future there? Then this is not good. Let's call a spade, right? Let's be honest with ourselves about this. That's what I think. You just Buckaroo Banzai just triggered me. I'm about to go out and unionize now. I want to go out and start a bunch of unions, a bunch of labor unions. That's the mood I get in when we start talking about these things. It's like, let's unionize, flip table. I believe in this very much, defending the worker, defending the one who's actually doing the work. I think that these people are valuable and they deserve to be compensated. Buckaroo Banzai says, lol. Good. Superhero says we should protest. 100%. If I had time. Right now I'm spending all my time running games and building the business. I don't have time to protest. I barely have time to walk my doggies. I have to take them in the backyard and play with them. I only take them to the park on the weekends because I'm already so busy. Barely have time to protest. But if my life was a little different, I probably would. Anyway, guys, thank you for the chat. Thank you for hanging out with me. Make sure to join the GM Philosophy Discord. Links in the description. Empowering Game Masters run better games is the goal. Roll some D100s for me at your next game, guys, and I'll see you on the next one.